Okay, I'll call the meeting order at 6 o'clock. We have enough board members. I can't tell who they are, but I see a couple smiling faces. And we got Laura and we got Chad. We got Dwight and I are here. So why don't we get going, because we got a lot on the agenda tonight. So, call the meeting order. Additions or deletions to the agenda? Does anybody have any additions or deletions? I'm gonna move some things around so we can get some people out of here. I think Matt is gonna join us tonight via Zoom eventually.
Yeah.
And we don't have anybody else from, we do have, is Greg coming tonight? Yes, Greg is there.
Yeah, in case
So-
anybody has any.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask that we move up the Greg was here for the tractor flooring discussion and transportation, hopefully committee update, but I don't see Mark. So that'll be a tough one. And then I'd like to move Bill up after that, and then, the principals.
Kate has joined.
Kate has joined. Kate is in the house. So if nobody has a problem with
Hello.
that, I'll do consent agenda. We have the minutes of the September 12th and the September 19th meetings. And I don't believe we have any correspondence in the packet. There is none.
Nope.
So does anybody have any comments on the consent agenda?
You have a hand from Peter Barris.
Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you. Just a note that the heading was wrong. It said board retreat. That was a copy of the last meeting on the September 12th. So the 19th no longer says it's a board retreat.
Okay, but we did
I spelled the
retreat.
name wrong.
We did retreat, didn't we?
Yeah, we did the retreat, but I named both of these board retreats. So I changed the header and corrected some name spellings. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So if there's nothing else, by unanimous consent, we'll accept those two items. Members of the public, I think there's a few people on there. Members of the public, Deidre Benson, and I can't read the name, Stephanie. You folks have anything for us? I guess no news is good news. So members of the staff, I don't see any members of the staff. And then I'm gonna skip down, so I'm gonna bounce around a little bit, because I got Andrew here too, Andy McLean, our district clerk is in the audience. He has to turn the camera on you for you to wave, Andy. So anyways, articles of agreement, discussion, possible action. So Bill was getting some feedback from the attorney, and then we wanted some feedback from Andy. I think specifically from Bill, we were looking for the wording, which I believe the attorney said the wording he gave us back in the last winter was okay to use.
Yeah, so we reconfirmed the wording of the hybrid model that the board asked me to follow up on. And then the second part was to find out about elections. If that article is part of a vote, and if it passes, and if the articles of agreement are amended, what would happen in successive elections. It's the attorney's belief that it would roll through just as normal. You wouldn't have to re-elect all six, but he is confirming that, and I will have that by the 17th of October in writing so that we know exactly how that plays out. But his belief is that we would just, whoever's supposed to be elected in the 23 cycle would be under the new Articles of Agreement if it so passes prior to that election.
And then we just roll.
And then you
right.
roll.
It's not like we have to re-elect everybody because
Correct.
it's a different way.
But we'll wait for that in writing, hopefully by the 17th.
Okay. So Andrew, sir, I know you've got a pretty big election coming up here in November, not for you, but for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And you had originally thought maybe doing it in November, and then you talked to me over the summer and said you didn't know what you were thinking about, so you'd like to not do it then. So we kind of bounced around, maybe because this has to be by ballot, to do this after town meeting stuff gets ready, gets sent out, but before the actual town meeting. Does that still work for you, or what were your thoughts, or have you not thought about it enough that you want to make a recommendation?
I would say, you could probably do it anytime once we're done with the November general election. And prior to town meeting, So you would wanna start, your elections this March, right? You wanna have this in place for your elections next March, right?
Correct. For when we
This
go,
coming
for
March.
when we go to the school district meeting at the end of
Yep.
March, beginning of
Yeah,
April.
yeah, so I would say anytime, say December through, January would be good,
Okay,
would be good.
do you, and how are we gonna do it? Are we gonna have two separate balloting locations?
So I think, we probably should, I don't know if we're required to or not, I'm guessing we are. Maybe, the attorney has, an opinion on that, that would be awesome. And so part of it would be coordinating when we can have two polling places on the same day, both here in Wardsboro, the town hall and their town hall, or possibly, I don't know what we're gonna get for turnout, but trying to do it at the clerk's offices might be difficult. But I don't know, we would have to work that out and figure that out, so, when did you want to set a date for this?
I don't think we care as much as we care for you.
Okay,
So, and I
Alright.
do remember the first election, the first budget had to be voted on by ballot.
I do,
And what happened was Wardsboro had to truck all their ballots over here for you to
Yes.
count.
that's right.
I mean, so was that gonna kinda, you think, be the similar
Yes,
setup? So if the board doesn't have an issue with this, because I don't think it matters to us as long as it gets done before, so that it will be done for the next,
Yeah.
our next annual meeting
Uh-huh.
cycle.
yeah,
Why don't you talk to your counterpart in Wardsboro and tell us what works for you and give us a couple dates maybe, and then
Okay.
at the next meeting, we'll have the final answers from the attorney,
okay,
and then, we'll just work it to make it easiest on you.
okay, that sounds like a plan.
Because it'll be a pretty simple
Yeah.
ballot, it'll be a yes or no ballot, right?
Yes, yes, you'll word the article so that it's a yes or no question. Dates with Jackie, no,
Not Jackie
Michelle.
anymore.
Michelle, gosh, Michelle. As far as voting on this and the vote to change your articles for this, will there be any language in that article regarding how officers are elected? In other words, from the floor by,
We're looking into that.
oh, you are, okay,
That was part of because what we believe is we're gonna have to do it, it's gonna have to be the same in both towns. And we
okay,
bounce around, maybe doing it at the annual meeting,
yeah,
from the floor,
yeah,
like, more like a Wardsboro,
Yeah.
or elect them at town meeting, by ballot,
yeah,
like we do in Dover,
yeah,
or, something similar to
Yeah.
that.
yeah, yeah. And those are two options I was thinking about as well. They're very different options. I like having the vote take place at your annual meeting because it drives participation at your meeting. If it's at your meeting from the floor makes sense, even though there's pluses and minuses to that as well. If it's at your annual meeting and it is an Australian ballot, then I would really be interested to know what the law says about having a polling place in each community. Because if you decide to have an Australian ballot with the election day being your annual meeting, I would really caution you against having a polling place in both Dover and Wardsboro. It will take away from people showing up to your annual meeting, but as well, the logistics of making that happen would be very difficult. And whatever election workers we have manning the polling place in the opposite town from where you're meeting won't be able to participate in the meeting.
So, can I ask you
Yeah,
a question?
what's up?
I don't know if you know, maybe Dwight or Tammy knows. Wardsboro, do they do anything by ballot on town meeting day?
No.
No.
I've spoken to Michelle, she'll do it, which is awesome, but that's new for them, and they don't currently do that.
Because to me, that would make the most sense, because I think you can, if you do it by ballot, you can do absentee ballot, so we're not excluding anybody. If we do it by ballot, at the same time, there's another meeting going on, they're not setting up a special time, and in Dover, you're already running an election, so I didn't know if that would make it easier.
Well,
Or-
yes and no, kind of, depending. So if we put this election on Dover's town meeting ballot so that it can be read by the tabulator, it's easy peasy for me, except that we would have to also make those, make the same ballots for Wardsboro, and those ballots would have to be transported after the polls close at 7 to Dover and run through the machine prior to getting any results for Dover, because the ballots need to be commingled. Which just adds a layer of stuff to town meeting day. Not that we can't handle it, particularly if you guys are willing to help out as a board. I don't know who. One of my questions would be, who's in charge of elections for the school district?
You
In
are.
the towns, well, besides me, in the towns, it's the Board of Civil Authority. I think in your articles of agreement, it might mention both select boards being in charge. I'm not sure how that exactly works, if that is really the case, or if it would be both boards of civil authority put together. At any rate, finding election workers to manage that would be a bit of a challenge and make for a later night, but you're right, it's a good idea. I had another question for you, and I can't remember what it was. So who's in charge of elections? And that would be the board that would appoint assistant election officials, which we're gonna need. So we need to know who does that. One polling place. Yeah, town meeting.
Well, can I ask you
yeah,
another,
go
while
ahead.
you're thinking?
Yep,
And then we'll see if anybody else
Sure.
does. Why don't you think about it, talk to Michelle,
yep,
we'll try to get these answers from Bill
Yeah.
that are specific to the election.
yep,
And then why don't you plan on, you can either just write something up or come to the next meeting, and you can, even by Zoom, and just tell us what's gonna, we're not trying to create more headaches for you
yep,
or for Michelle. We're just trying
Yeah.
to kind of follow, make
Yeah.
everything work and try to get the best participation we can.
yeah, for sure, and my goal is to do what's best for the voters in the district, and for you guys. Let's see, so, you're changing, your articles of agreement, with this vote, and a question perhaps for the lawyer would be, do you need to change them relative to how you vote? Do these decisions need to be made for this article that we'll be voting on? Or do those changes fall under the bit where if it wasn't part of the warned article that created us in the Articles of Agreement, you folks have the ability to change that without a district-wide vote?
And we were able to, so when we
Yes.
first started, we had a vote.
Right.
So if you remember the first election, we all
Yeah,
got
right.
voted on by our respective towns.
Yes,
With the articles, with the wording for the articles. And then after that, we did a lot of extensive research because, Dover was used to voting, Wardsboro was
Right.
used to voting from the floor. So at that time, the attorney, who is our same attorney, told us that that's a decision the board can make.
right,
The only question I have now though is, you know, how do we make it work the best? Because it's, you know, what we did back then was we made what was best for the respective
Right,
towns and to
right.
respect the town's individualities, that unity and freedom thing. And so, again, I think we can just do something, but we're
Right.
now that we have to have everybody from both towns vote, we can't, there's certain things we can't do. So I think that's a good question, Bill, for the attorney. Just to maybe we should put in the article how the elections will be held.
Well, if you don't have to, then not putting it in there might allow you to change it more easily.
Easily.
Yeah, definitely.
But again, I think it, you know, we want to also, like you said, make it work for you and Michelle. We don't
Yeah.
want to make this position be
Yeah.
a position that nobody wants because,
Right.
you know, it's
Yeah,
so
of course,
difficult.
right.
So,
I appreciate that, thank you.
so go ahead, Mark.
Two questions. One,
Yes.
in regards to commingling,
Yeah.
can you run all of Dover's ballots and then then separately run the Wardsboro? Do they actually have to be thrown into a bag together and then done?
I can run all Dovers and then run all Wardsboros, and the tape won't reflect. If, you know, the memory card is programmed such, it won't break them out.
Okay. Second question is, and maybe this is a question for the lawyer. If we mail ballots to everyone, would that then allow us to just have a single polling place?
Great question. In order to mail ballots, you also need approval votes of both select boards, I believe.
To mail the ballots?
Yes.
I think that might have been changed in the latest edition
Well, let's,
law, but
yeah,
Yeah.
Bill, can you add that to your questions because it would be,
they may have also changed, they changed a number of odd things in, what was it, H727 or something, whatever it was. Probably want to double check and make sure that the board can still make a decision on how we vote.
I think though Bill did ask about the changes, did they affect us, and they didn't affect us as much.
Not in this particular vote, no.
Right.
But
That was, I thought that was in regards to the articles, so.
I'll definitely check though. So your particular question is, can the board make a decision about how the vote happens?
For the elections moving forward.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we still can,
And also-
that wasn't changed.
If the board wanted to mail ballots, is that
the
a
school
school board
district board-
decision or is that a select board decision, right, Andy?
Yeah, I think you guys would have to make that decision, but then you need a positive vote of both select boards.
Okay. I got a bunch of questions.
Yeah, is there any, oh, go ahead, Dwight.
Just curious, so for the Dover town meeting, explain to me how, so you're currently using a ballot for
Yep.
all the officers?
Yes.
And so is that made available prior to the meeting?
It
And
is.
how long prior to?
It's a statute thing.
Yeah.
And,
Is it
I forget
different?
what it is.
Is it
might be
different for
3
general?
weeks, Dwight?
Yeah, a few weeks, okay.
Might
Different
be.
for general election than it is for local elections?
Yeah. So, and then you can vote and then you can
Remember.
actually pick up a ballot at town meeting.
Yes,
you arrive
most
and you-
people vote at town meeting,
But you can do it.
but you can request one prior to that. We don't mail them to everybody.
You don't mail them
in
currently?
Dover.
No, okay. So this will be first to mail out a ballot for.
If we did it.
If we did it, it would be a first.
Well, no, because didn't we mail ballots out for some other elections?
No, statewide general elections, okay? So the first and only time we did it was in 2020 for the general election, okay? That's this big statewide thing we're doing in November. But I think that was a presidential year. This one's not a presidential year, but same election. So this will be the second time we've done that in the state of Vermont, Dover, whatever. Also during COVID, however, I think on a primary election, they mailed postcards to everybody saying, hey, they're available.
Yeah.
They just didn't mail all the ballots. We've never done it for a local election.
Yeah, I got my ballot today in the mail.
Yeah,
I filled mine out already.
You did, yeah.
I got it.
There you go.
Is that
gonna
on the
say,
raised
look, that's
Or
a
is that
hand.
just the?
No, that's a
Received
raised hand.
today.
No. Oh yeah, Stephanie has a hand.
No, that's
Co-
your cursor, I believe.
Or is that?
Oh, it's our cursor.
No hand.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cursor on.
So, Andy, do you have? I'm sorry. You guys have? Do you have everything you need?
I
All
got
right.
a bunch of questions. Will you email me
Yes,
your particular questions to make sure I got them?
for sure.
And
I
Bill,
will
do me a
that.
favor, before we send this off to the attorney, email it to me too, so we can get the three of us are all in agreement.
You got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rich, one more.
Yep, go ahead, Mark.
Andy, would you be able to get us, not necessarily an exact price, but a round figure on what it would cost to mail out ballots to the entire district?
That's more the business office, so that should go to Bill, not to Andy.
Okay, and you still have to tell them then the number of registrants.
Well, we need an approximate number, because the grand list, or the voters checklist is not similar to any other list, and the voters checklist changes daily, or can change, I mean, however often you do it, but there's just, all we need is a rough number
Of what?
of how many voters there are in Dover and Wardsboro, and then we'll let Bill's office deal with that.
2,000
Okay, so just use that number, Bill.
approximately.
So, there's one question.
Yeah.
So could we do it at the town? Is town meeting? I'm assuming it's back in March this year.
Yep.
Or, so could we do it at that?
Well, right now, but
right
again,
now?
we don't.
I know. Just let's assume it is. We
Yeah.
could do it at the same day.
So
Add this to the ballot in
vote-
both Dover and Wardsboro, or have a new one in Wardsboro, but add to the ballot. In
The
Dover.
vote to change your articles of agreement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
No, that won't be a town meeting.
Could we do it at town meeting?
Yes, you
That's
could.
what I'm
Oh,
asking.
we could.
That's what I'm asking. If we could do it at town meeting.
yes.
Yeah.
Because that would be 3 weeks prior to your annual meeting.
Yeah, so it would just be a tight window between. It might be too late. Tight window between then and that.
Yeah,
right?
because then how are you're gonna
Yeah,
have to,
it's-
people,
Yeah,
you know,
that'd be tight.
if you're from
yeah.
Wardsboro,
Okay.
you don't know, are you gonna run from, are you running from the floor, or are you running?
Yeah,
by
we won't have
ballot
time to
and-
figure that out.
Right, so
Yeah,
I
okay.
think we need to do it a little earlier than that.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. If you wanna vote. Yeah.
Yeah, we better do it earlier.
For the board members, you'll
Yeah.
have to do it quicker.
That's right. Okay.
Laura has a question.
Oh, go ahead, Laura. Go ahead, Laura. Oops.
I just offering an opinion, which is I would rather have us have the vote at town meeting when most people are voting and move our school board meeting if that's possible. I don't know if that's possible to do. Can still have 30 days in case it gets voted down, but there you go. Feedback.
I guess you could do it for 24.
I was gonna say, or we just vote the same way this upcoming year.
Change the Articles of Agreement March 7th for the 24 election.
Or like Laura's saying, you could change your annual meeting date.
But
Push
then
that
we vote
back.
on that at the
When is the annual
last
meeting date? I thought it was in
school
April.
district annual meeting to set the date.
No.
So
I don't think we have them set already.
I thought we were
Few
voting
months
on
out,
it
a few
couple-
years out.
2 years.
No,
So-
the Articles of Agreement tell us when we're supposed to meet.
Second Tuesday.
We've been able to blow it
In April,
out
right?
because of COVID, because special rules during COVID. But I thought all those special rules ended.
so they did, right?
Yeah,
So,
Technically, they end January 15th.
right. Well, that's what I'm saying is we,
Of 23.
right. So we couldn't move the April one out because unless the legislature changes.
Right.
You could have a special district meeting to change the date of your annual meeting.
Let's do that at the same time we vote.
You
could.
could.
So you could, okay.
You certainly
okay,
could.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You could.
and push it off. So I think we, as usual, we've created more questions than we have answers.
Seems to me it's easier to push off the change in voting if we're gonna do that than try to move the annual
I wouldn't want to
meeting.
move the annual meeting.
You know what, I would really prefer to move the annual meeting. I argued for it to be later in the year anyways,
Or-
so that we, go ahead, Andy.
Sorry, I'm talking to
it's,
myself.
it's kind of a discussion.
So, you leave your annual meeting where it is. You guys keep your offices till like July 30th or something,
July
right?
1st, well,
July
June
1st,
30th.
June 30th. Leave your annual meeting alone. Change how you vote at town meeting and have an election for officers
After the fact,
after your annual meeting in
June,
June
or May even.
or May.
Okay.
Because we're the final Thursday of March. Or are we the second Tuesday of April?
You're the last Tuesday in March.
Yeah.
Last Tuesday of March?
Really?
Yes.
Why am I thinking we changed it? I thought
We
changed
did, but there, when we were discussing the change at the Dover Town Hall,
Yeah.
there was, there was a holiday here, there's some other holiday there, and, anytime, and then we were trying to give us enough time that if the budget got voted down, to be able to rewarn a new budget.
All right. Okay.
So it kind of,
All right.
we bounced around a lot with it,
So much so that I don't have it on my calendar at all.
Yeah.
yeah.
I know. Right. It's been bounced around, so it makes sense.
So let's do this then, Andy. Think about, the most important thing is when you can do the election. And if you want to do it at town meeting, and that will work for both towns, but I think too, I don't know how involved the town clerk has to be at the Wardsboro town meeting, and is that going to create issues for her? So why don't we just confirm that before we check into anything else? And if she's agreeable to doing it that day, I think you may get a little bit better turnout, but I think if you're voting by ballot anyways, and so if you do vote by ballot, they are allowed to request an absentee ballot if they can't make it. And unless there's something exciting going on at town meeting, I mean, we get 100 people at town meeting, but you still get a couple hundred people voting. I don't know if it'll make that much of a difference.
Are you talking about the election of officers at
No.
town meeting or changing
The election of the changing of the to vote to change the
change
articles
the
of
article at
agreement
town meeting?
at town meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna make that much difference if we do it at town meeting day or if we do it at another date. So we
I
can,
think you definitely get more participation. Would we be able to discuss it at town meeting if we're voting on it by Australian ballot?
no, and we couldn't discuss it anyways because it's not a school district meeting, it's a town meeting,
We
so.
could convene a school district meeting first.
But then we have to bounce around because we'd have to do it in both towns, so that's gonna create some issues.
We just mail ballots and everybody can vote.
There is something to be said for that.
Yeah, and the board, that motion died without a second, so the board had no interest in doing that at this time.
Yeah, I understand that as well. So, okay.
So again, we don't have to decide tonight, so
Right.
I think, so can I just poll everybody and make sure we're all on the same page? So we have several questions that need to be answered. And the most important one is when's gonna be the best time to have the articles of agreement voted on? And I think we need some input from Andy and Michelle on what's gonna work for them. And I think Bill has some questions to ask. So why don't we plan on, at the next meeting, we should be able to get all these answers. And why don't we make a decision at the next meeting based on this? And if anybody comes up with any other questions, let's make sure you get them to us before the end of the week so we can get them to Bill. So he can send them to the attorney. hang on one second, Mark. Just a straw poll type of thing. How many people would feel that we should try to have the articles of agreement voted on at town meeting day? Or how many are fine if we do a different day?
Which one are you asking?
Which one are you asking?
What do you prefer, town meeting
I
day, or
kinda-
are you okay with another day?
I mean, I prefer a town meeting. I understand that. I'd like to see more participation from the public. It's a pretty big issue. I think I like Andy's if we can't get the election done at our annual meeting, let's move the election off. That's what I'm leaning towards until I get more information.
Okay, what do you think, Mark?
Town meeting.
Laura, do you think town meeting too?
That's her idea, so.
Yes.
Okay. Chad?
Yeah, town meeting sounds ideal.
Okay, Kate, I don't even have to ask you.
Works for me.
Okay. So let's do that with the goal, Andy. Can we set it up so we can vote the articles of agreement? But again, we're not gonna be able to have any discussion about it, and I don't think we can convene
So we
a
can't
school
have,
district meeting to
right.
discuss it either, because you're gonna have
We'd have to-
half your board over in Dover and half of them in
we might have to set
in
up
Wardsboro.
a special
But
meeting.
no, we will set up special meetings ahead of time,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
because we'll have to explain to people why we're making this request. Okay,
Okay.
Mark,
Could I just recap real quickly?
Mark had one other point, I
Okay.
asked him just hold it for a sec, go ahead, Mark.
Just a correction, the motion on voting that I had made that did not get a second was in regards to elections going forward, not the mailing ballots was in regards to elections going forward, not in regards to the articles of agreement change.
Okay. So would you like to make a motion, Mark?
No, not until we have set date and time information.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I guess what I think I'm hearing is that the preference would be for a town meeting to have the ability to have the articles of agreement amended,
Okay.
to have the school district meeting at its regularly scheduled final Tuesday in March, and to set a special school district meeting for the sole purpose of electing 2 officers to the River Valley Board sometime in May or June. Is that
Right.
the sequence that I'm hearing?
Yes, it wouldn't necessarily need to be a meeting, just an election.
An election. They call it a meeting, right?
Well,
Well, it
Never
could,
mind. Election.
it
Good
could
enough,
be, it
whatever.
could go either way. I mean, you could have, if you're gonna elect from the floor, then we'd have a special meeting and have an election from the floor. Or if you're gonna elect by ballot, we would have to, have balloting.
Okay.
Do you have to, can you, do you have to set, because don't you start balloting earlier, like on this November election? Can't you vote earlier? Is it always are the hours set by some standard?
so, no, it's kind of odd. There are minimums. For general elections, I open at 7 a.m., close at 7 p.m. You always close at 7 p.m. For town meeting, I open at 10 a.m. Sometimes for a primary election, which has historically minuscule turnout, I will open at 10 a.m. But for anything where I'm expecting a decent turnout, I open at 7 a.m. I can open whenever you like,
Well, no,
for whatever vote you want.
I was just, yeah, I mean, for a single point election, just one vote on that. That's why I was wondering if you could, do 10 to 7.
At a minimum 10 to 7. I would probably do 7 to 7 for something important where I expect it will make a difference for people. Yeah.
Okay. Is everybody good with this topic? Did we beat this horse pretty well? Cool. So everybody's all good. So Bill, before we send anything out to the attorney, we're all,
The 3 of us will.
okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully Peter got some good notes. So Andy, I really appreciate, sorry we have to bring you back one more time, but
Oh, it's all good.
We will be in Dover on the 17th.
Oh, fantastic.
yeah, so you won't have to go as far.
Cool. And I'm gonna sit and try and get some questions down. If you move on, and if I wanna clarify, because I can't
Yeah.
remember what. Okay,
Thank you, buddy.
thanks.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip over while Greg Frost is still here. Did we lose Greg or is he
No.
still here?
He's there.
Looking
So,
good.
and is Matt here?
Matt will be on at 7.
Oh, should we wait for Matt to do the Greg Frost stuff?
That might be supportive of having Matt's voice at the same time as you're having Greg's.
Greg, I'm sorry, can you hang out till Matt gets here?
I love nothing more than to do that.
You lie.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip down to the Burton request about partnering for costs of driver's ed. The superintendent has an update.
And just so you know that under, I provided the written report for all the superintendents. But we had a very good discussion at our last meeting about, just as a recap, Burton has requested to the River Valleys Board to partner with the ability to follow the statute, which says that a school must make available driver's education to students at that school. So I've had multiple conversations and email communications with multiple people at the Agency of Education to kind of flesh out the situation. But to crystallize it all, under statute, a public high school and or a approved independent school serving 9 through 12 students is responsible to make driver's education available to its students. That's the phrase, must make available. So the legal interpretation from the AOE is the school, Burton, should be paying the cost of that, whatever that is. Having an endorsed teacher, hiring a private driving school, or allowing students to take a driver's education privately on their own. Those three options. The superintendent in the local education agency physical district is responsible to make sure that happens.
So
So,
BRSU.
the BRSU, Bennington Rutland Supervisory Union Superintendent, is responsible to make sure that the school follows that statute. So, I have contacted my colleague at Burton, Headmaster Mark Tash, I always say his name. Tashin. Good guy. I just let him know everything that was going on. I have contacted my counterpart, the superintendent in BRSU, shared exactly what the AOE has shared. She appreciated the clarity and understands her responsibilities. She is communicating with Burton to come back and communicate to me, of which I will communicate to you, how they are going to satisfy the language of the statute of making it available. So I don't know exactly what that will look like, but I will be bringing back what the superintendent will oversee for the school to provide to follow the statute. I don't know what that answer is right now, but I do have clarity that it is the school's responsibility to provide that. They can absolutely ask for a school district to participate in covering the cost of that, but it is school districts sending their students through tuition are not obligated to do that.
I don't know if you can answer this question or not. What authority does a superintendent of a public school district have over a private school?
So it's odd in Vermont, but it really falls back to all federal guidelines, the local education agency. And so the authority of the local education agency is the superintendent. So there are responsibilities I have to schools within the physical boundaries of our supervisory union to make sure that there are Title I services, that there are certain federal requirements. So I have to do that, so I know what that's like. The authority is simply, this is the federal guideline, this is what the Agency of Education interprets that federal guideline, and then therefore I have to make it happen. There hasn't been any problems of me doing that. I don't foresee there to be a problem in this situation.
Just curious, so it sounds like the AOE is adding more to what is taken from the federal guidelines in this case.
So in this case, it's common practice that a superintendent is responsible for a local education agency's response. So it makes sense to me, just like I work with private pre-K providers and make sure that Act 166 is happening, even though I have no official authority over them. It is still my responsibility to make sure that they are working with the Child Development Division. And if there is a problem, I am sometimes called and then have to do that. But yes, I don't have any supervisory authority, but I have local education authority that I have to wield.
And that's regardless of whether there are students in the supervisory
It's just
district
about the
going
physical
to the
location.
physical location.
So if Burton was in Wardsboro, then I would be responsible. If Burton was in Westminster, then the superintendent of Wyndham Northeast would be responsible.
Fascinating.
It is. We have a very unique system in Vermont. Yes. So with all that being
The
said,
wheels are turning on how we can use
I
that.
will let you all know what solution the superintendent and Burton come up with.
So basically, for right now, we're not gonna volunteer to pay any money out until we kind of get it.
I have not volunteered River Valleys to obligate any funds.
Okay. Everybody good with
I
that?
just had a quick question.
Go ahead.
So I just want to be clear, so the AOE believes that shall make available is, they interpret that to mean they need to pay for it.
Yes.
Is that accurate? So,
Very
but-
clear.
Okay, that's great. And then also, but then you said that they can still ask us for the money, you said at the end.
Absolutely.
So I'm not sure why they would ask us if they're fully responsible to pay for it. They can.
I don't think until I had these deep
Yeah.
conversations that this had been delved into in that level.
That's what we do here.
Yeah, no.
We delve.
You guys delve.
It was
So
excellent
I
work,
think,
Bill.
I think Stratton's reconsidering their stance. Is that
It
correct?
must be.
And we are meeting tomorrow night. So,
See that?
yeah.
Well done, Bill.
Tell Stratton, thank you.
Stratton already thanked me because Mark had already, thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Had already prepared the Stratton board chair to the possibility of this ongoing discussion. So
Yeah.
very helpful. No, it's new things come up every day.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, if everybody's good with that, I think we beat that one up.
A lot of beating today.
Superintendent's report. So we got the cabinet report, and unless anybody has, are there any questions on anything from that? Or Bill, do you have anything new, or does anybody have any questions of our superintendent of schools, William Antone?
We met 2.5 weeks ago, so I really don't have a bunch more to add since September 19th. Other than I would just point out that the calmness and steadiness of the two schools operating have been really quite remarkable the first month of school. I've been over to visit both schools multiple times, and the way in which your leaders and the staff at both schools have really taken, which could have been a very challenging first month after 3 years of school district world being very disruptive. It seems unbelievably steady within a bandwidth of students and learning and family engagement, and it felt really positive coming to visit Wardsboro and visit Dover. So I give a lot of credit to Tammy and Matt and their teams to really just operate in a way of steadiness and calmness that I think families and I know students really appreciate.
So any questions for Bill? Mark, you good?
I'm good, yes, thank you.
Anybody on TV? Everybody on TV good? Okay, Bill, before you leave, let's do two other real quick things.
Yeah.
I got a solar agreement, so I believe that the email from the solar company was that they're looking to refinance. So they asked us to sign an estoppel certificate. Estoppel?
That's how I
Estoppel. And that we've entered into an agreement, and it's the same agreement that we've had the attorney look at. And we're just acknowledging that there's no litigation action suits or investigations. We've not assigned the agreement to anybody, and that the part of it is the original agreement that we signed back in 2014 with just the town of Dover. So if I could get, and I believe everybody had in their packet, so if I could just get a motion for the chair to sign this on behalf of the on behalf of the district, I'm sorry.
I'll move it.
Thank you. Mark moved it. Peter, do you know what he moved? Yep, thumbs up. Can I have a second, please?
I did.
I'll second.
Okay, Dwight seconds it.
I see Kate reaching there.
Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Kate, we saw you moving for it, but Dwight jumped all over it.
I jumped ahead.
Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead, Mark.
So the last time we kind of were working through this, we had a draft contract. And off the top of my head, I don't remember who it was between. I think it would have been between us and the solar and the solar company, which we never acted upon. What is the status?
I don't know what draft contract. We were,
Bill, do you remember? I can pull it up.
No, it's like
if you
9
want.
months ago.
yeah, no, the attorney was writing a new agreement, but it didn't make a difference because we're down by the other agreement.
Yeah, I engaged, it took me forever to find an attorney who didn't have a conflict of interest with any of the solar people, any of the towns, any of the work.
So you went to
I
India.
finally found one in Rutland, and yes, I did ask them to draft up what it would look like, but we have not acted on it, we haven't talked about it, we haven't discussed it.
But we have no
Okay.
way to force anybody for this company to do it, so.
Yeah, exactly.
And now that we know how it works better and we've got the fire district and everybody more online, we actually found the fire district wants to give up a little bit of their power that they've gotten. So I think the town may take it because they have some stuff that isn't covered on, that they can use it, they can use that extra kilowatts.
Are they gonna take our excess also?
We don't have any excess. We
Oh,
only
we did?
had excess because of
of COVID?
COVID, which kind of sucks because you lose that. You can't get that back. But that's, we also found out that the West River Group had that because one of the representatives from Townsend tried to do that. But I think we're actually in really good shape as long as we run school. If the school's closed, then we're not in as good shape. And the other part of it was that we were looking, because of the original agreement, the North Branch was supposed to give us, they get a 15% discount. We were supposed to get 5 of it. And the town was only supposed to get 10% of the 15 and give us 5. But we never, the minutes aren't very explicit on that. And the select board was working with us, and I'm the only one left who can remember it. And, so nobody wants to honor that. So I guess, we were trying to do better for the school, because the school tax is a little bit smaller group, but nobody wants to agree with it. So basically, we're kind of stuck with this for 25 years. If it's been since 2014, we'll be almost 10 years. And then somebody else can deal with it in the next couple of years. But this is nothing to do with changing anything, and just saying that there's no judgment so that they can do some financing.
So I have one other question.
Yep.
The 2014 contract is with the town of Dover, not with the school.
Yeah.
Aren't they the ones who need to sign it?
No. It's actually with the school. I don't know why it says town of Dover, because it's not on the town property, it's on the school property in the school. made the contract, and they asked us to sign it. And if we sign it, they'll be very happy, so.
Okay. Then that's probably something that should be changed in the contract. No?
No, I'm good with it.
I'm not a contract lawyer. Actually, I'm not a lawyer at all, but that seems extremely unkosher to me.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
Chad's got a hand up.
Go ahead, Chad.
Sorry, forgot to mute. Just a quick question is, again, you have the knowledge from having been there, and you and I have been able to talk at length about solar and being involved with the fire district. So were you saying that because this was initiated by the school was asking for a little bit of the discount, so essentially instead of one of the entities that we're sharing power with seeing 15%, they were going to get 10% of their bill and give us 5% back?
Correct. That's what the original intent was. And I always had believed that that's what the board member who used to work at Mount Snow, help me with his name, Bill. Chip Vickery had set up, and then there was a spreadsheet, and he had set it up with the treasurer, because back then we didn't utilize the supervisory union for treasury work. We did it in-house. And I just always assumed it was all set up and everything was being taken care of, and it wasn't. Same thing I said last year when we had this. So unfortunately, you know, shame on me, but I can't keep track on every little thing that happens. And I thought we were getting the credits, and we really weren't. So it pretty much from day one.
So even though we haven't been, that doesn't mean, and I'm not looking to create a big, to do with our, civic brethren and sisterhood, but because it is the schools, the school districts, we could certainly say, we do have the authority to say, no, we're not going to share power with you, unless this does happen, and here's why.
No, we can't, because we agreed as part of the agreement when we set this up is we had to have partners to make sure that all the electricity would be accounted for. So we could say, yeah, we're not going to share it with you, but then we're going to be responsible for 85% of the total generation of that solar property. And also we can't just sell it to Bill Antone for his house and, individuals. It has to be, the original setup was it had to be with a municipal government body so that they were sure they were going to get their money. They didn't want to deal with Joe's garage and then have Joe decide he doesn't, wasn't going to pay the bill, or, it's not so much pay the bill, but not give the 85% of the credit back to the company. So that was the original agreement. So that's why we actually set up the partnership beforehand.
Okay.
So is there any other questions or comments? Solar rears its ugly head again. If there's no other questions or comments, if you're ready to vote, all those in favor say aye.
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 Did you hear Laura?
Laura is in and out of 2 meetings, so she may not be available to vote.
Okay, opposed? So what do we do about Laura?
I'm abstaining.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. I
That's
thought
okay.
you said aye.
You got a 3-0 to abstain. She just didn't vote.
So that doesn't carry, it's a push. It's not a majority.
But it depends if you vote.
And you can vote.
Okay,
vote.
I'll vote. I'm going to vote for it to push it over the line.
So Peter 401.
Well, no, I have to do a roll call right now.
Excuse me.
Oh, there's one.
There's Laura.
Hey, Laura,
Aye.
how do you vote, Laura?
Yes.
Okay. How do you vote, Kate?
Yes.
How do you vote, Chad?
Yes.
How do you vote, Mark?
I abstain.
How do you vote, Dwight?
Yes.
Okay, so now it's 4-1. Okay. So the motion passes. I will sign this. Bill, can I give this to you to have somebody send off, or do you want to just?
No, I'll take it.
Okay. So it's almost 7. Do we have?
That's not popped on yet, but we expect 75.
Okay, you can have all that.
Okay.
Okay, so I think, I'm glad you stuck around for solar. That covers all our old business. Is everybody good if Bill leaves? Does anybody need Bill for anything else? Anybody in TV land?
He doesn't need this, does he?
Do you want me to just bring that, did you sign, Mark? Are you good with this? Did you have questions, or?
What is it?
It's the pay warrants.
Where do we sign?
It's
Put it
what?
in the black box.
The first page. Okay, I'll leave it in the black.
It's the same thing that,
Sign up here?
She
that
sent
was
out.
emailed to us?
Right.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
They sign up here?
No, it's
there's
on the
a-
second page. There's
Oh.
Yeah,
no, I think it's right.
Oh, I see it. I know what it is. I saw it.
yeah, I did. The magic.
No, it's on that one, I'm sorry.
I thought I saw something.
Yeah, it's on the, it should be the last page.
There
of
it
that
is.
one. Okay, Bill, I'll leave that for you at work in the morning, but it won't be till like 7:30. What time you go through?
Fine.
Okay.
It's good time. It's really good.
Okay, so, I'm gonna move on. Tammy, do me a favor, as soon as you see, who's running the meeting now?
I'm
Jamie's
the
got it.
host.
Okay, as soon as you
When I
see
Matt,
Matt, let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, so principals updates. Let's skip that. Transportation Committee, Mark, do you have anything, or did you guys not meet yet?
We didn't. We
Tran-
meet again?
We did meet.
Since the last meeting? I don't think so.
I'm completely losing track of time. We've met twice. I
Yeah.
can't remember if we had a district meeting after our last meeting or not.
Yeah.
Where we talked
Our
about.
last meeting was 2 weeks
We
ago.
did not.
We had-
We did not. We had a meeting, like, wasn't it just last week,
Was it?
I believe?
Well, that would be.
Okay, so
Okay,
so
all
okay,
right,
so
all right.
so so then we need an update, and I need to give you an update.
All right.
And Dwight, you may need to fill in some holes because I
Sure.
didn't prepare anything.
It's all right.
So we discussed 3 topics.
Yeah.
I'll start with the last one, which is Dwight brought up looking into the possibility of a solar
No, not solar. Well, maybe.
electric.
Solar.
Let's just go for a solar.
Yeah,
solar
right. You trying to
Mark.
freak Rich out?
Mark, you gonna vote on this now or not?
for an electric bus. So he and Greg
Well,
very graciously
agreed, yes.
very graciously agreed to work with Dwight on that possibility. So they're going to look at that. The other thing we talked about was the busing for secondary students beyond what we're already doing, specifically to BRSU, the schools over in the BRSU area. And we were still getting more pricing information. Somebody help me?
Right, so we had a long discussion about that, and we got some information about an existing bus
Right,
that
that's what it
can
was.
come, and they do charge a per student cost. I think it was like $800 or something like that for the year. They, from my understanding, they did show interest in expanding the route a little closer to Wardboro to have it in the morning stop at the Stratton town office. So that was a positive, but I think the group kind of wanted some more information and see if there was, at least I did, I asked the question if we could have more information if there was a single price for our entire district. There were also concerns, I think they said there were 15 spots available, if I remember.
Right.
So that may not be enough, and then in which case we would be running some kind of lottery. So we still had there's still some outstanding things we need to square up, but we did get a little bit more information, but we were looking for a little bit more before we could kind of make any kind of recommendation. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, just to clarify that a little bit, the bus that's currently running has the 15 spots available, so we would have to run a lottery for that. That would be for this current year. Next year, they'd be willing to negotiate a contract with us to bring it a stop closer, which I guess is the town hall,
office.
Stratton, whatever it is, up
Yeah.
in Stratton someplace.
Right.
and we'd have to negotiate a contract with them for that, including how many spots we'd get.
Right.
So, and we did not get pricing from
Western.
Todd yet. He was going to come back and give us what it
You
would
get
cost.
price from who?
Todd.
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 You
So-
had a long Todd there.
Todd.
It was
Well,
like the way you said it.
But that was to what? To get
I got
another
1,000 things in my mind
get
right
another-
now.
to
It
get
took me a
that-
while to get that thought out.
that was to get another bus?
That was to get another
Yeah,
bus.
but that seems very much out of reach. But anyway, we're going
It
to get a
is.
number.
It,
get
it,
that.
it would be a huge number, but
Yeah.
we'll get that
Yeah.
for comparison purposes.
You know, just for some ideas, back in the day, 20 years ago, it was a contract with Laidlaw Transportation to go from Dover to Brattleboro was $60,000 back when fuel was a couple bucks a gallon.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's a lot.
yeah.
Well, and for reference purposes, Stratton pays $25,000 annual contract for transporting their students,
Okay.
and it's not from Stratton Town Hall. It's
Oh,
a little bit further away, but
The Welcome Center,
Welcome
Stratton.
Center.
That's probably the Stratton Mountain.
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
so that's what they're currently.
Yeah, so I mean, you're looking somewhere between 25 and 50 probably if you get it to come closer to us.
Possibly. It certainly wouldn't be less than 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody in? Are you set, Mark? I'm sorry.
We had another
Two other
topic.
things, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
The Dover bus and then the bus stop.
So
The bus
the
stop.
Dover bus we already
ordered.
that's already been ordered or contract signed.
Greg, you ordered a bus, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that,
You got
that's
the
taken
green
care of.
one, right?
I asked for blue.
With the blue stripe.
Yeah.
That was the one.
Cool.
That's it.
So everybody knows. We,
With hybrid.
oh, okay. Everybody knows that we voted on the bus and the bus was ordered and we're all set with that.
And then the last thing was the bus stop request, which I thought we talked about at the last meeting. Maybe
We did.
not. Well, we did, right?
You were waiting
Well,
for
we
some
waited.
more
We were
information.
okay. So it was determined Todd and his driver, and I can't remember his name, Dennis, took a look and felt that it was just too dangerous to add a stop at
Upper
Podunk.
and 100.
I
and
can see that.
Greg weighed in. He felt it was too dangerous also. So we are leaving the stop at Arlington, Stratton, and 100. Right?
Yeah,
Stratton.
Yeah.
that's correct. Try to look
Stratton, Arlington.
Gotta get it right.
I'm-
You're
Your
in
awards
Stratton
run out.
side.
Yeah, right.
I'm just gonna shut up because I'm getting everything.
No, you
backwards
got it
from
right.
here.
No, you got it
Here
right.
on.
You got it
That-
right.
that's it. That's all we talked about at the meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, right.
is everybody good with that? Does anybody have any questions of Mark or Dwight? Go ahead, Chad. I can see his hand.
Just was hoping, Mark, I appreciate everyone that's been working on the bus situation and trying to understand the dangerous aspect. I mean, granted, I know the road, very, very well. Recognize the Burton Request on a downhill. Do we have similar locations that the Dover bus picks up? Granted, it's not on 100 because most 100 in the town of Dover is relatively flat. But are there other areas in Dover for the Dover students that do present a similar challenge that our current ridership presents now?
So what I can say is that Dave Sheldon, right? Dave Sheldon weighed in. Also, he's one of the bus drivers for Dover, and his feeling was that it was too dangerous at that location as well. So I can't tell you whether there is a comparative stop or not in Dover, but I can tell you that one of our drivers felt that that would be too dangerous a location.
And just Chad, I don't know if you're familiar, but a lot of the Dover stops on Route 100, they actually pull off the road. Like the one by on the south, they pull into the North Plaza, and then they used to pull into the Andirons. They do try to get off of Route 100 as much as they can, but it's as a former bus driver, a lot of years ago, I wouldn't stop there either. I don't like to stop there with my truck. I do see that. It's too bad that there wasn't a pull-off or something.
Well,
They
There
felt
it is.
they felt even with the pull off, getting back onto 100 was still
Just
too
getting
steep
back on.
in really bad weather.
Because of the bend. It's more the bend.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe if the town paved Podunk Road, they'd just go straight down Podunk Road.
Yeah. You never know.
Well, that was some conversation of that because Podunk is not, typically at the top of the list to get plowed. So that does create a problem. So you can't utilize the back road in order to, have a more safe egress from the area. But as you just mentioned, Rich, in Dover, they pull into the North Plaza. So that is a commercial parking lot, correct?
Yeah.
So the question would be, is Turkwood a commercial entity as well, where the apartments are? Because if so, that is a location, because we also have at least 2 students. The road, is it Meadow? I always forget the name of it. Just on the south side of Turkwood.
Meadowwood.
Thank you, Kate. On Meadowwood. So as the bus comes south, it could turn into Turkwood. There's a connection from the Turkwood parking lot to Meadowwood to help initiate the return northbound. Is that something that we should consider, given that we do have ridership in that area?
Well, that should go to the transportation committee, but also you can't just use a commercial property. Somebody owns it and you have to have permission from them to use that. You can't just turn around somewhere because you think it's a good turnaround. And to be honest, I don't know how great a turnaround Turkwood would be. But again, it's not our decision. It's really the transportation committee and the drivers and the people responsible for the safety of the students.
If the parents are interested, then they need to make the request.
From having spoken with the parents that have made the initial request, I know that there is some interest. And that's one of the reasons that I actually personally checked out that connection, how wide it was. Again, I haven't driven a bus. I've driven some big vehicles, but not bus length. And it seems as though it would be sufficient. And again, asking for permission, is not very difficult. Certainly we would be relying upon, a positive answer if that is something that the transportation committee and the drivers felt would be a safe area. But that's another option as well, because I know that number of students is growing up that way.
So Chad can ask for the transportation committee to look into that, even if he's not a parent of a student that may get picked up there, because he is a board member and requests can come from the board too.
Okay.
So can you just put that on your next time you meet agenda? Because you'll be having a meeting when you get numbers from, you're not planning on meeting again?
The information was going to get sent because it was just information. We were just going to send it out and only meet if there was a need for it. But we can meet again. What we'll do is we'll ask Todd and Dennis to look at it and tell us what their feeling is.
Like Turkwood's in Stratton.
And wasn't there another aspect of the congestion that is happening on Stratton Arlington and how to alleviate that currently for the students that do, they get driven by their parents to that location, or the 2 locations that are currently being utilized at Stratton Arlington?
Yes.
And I just asked because recognize if we were able to find a safe, feasible location, that would absolutely eliminate the congestion that's happening, because then we're bringing the bus to the ridership and not the ridership to the bus.
So the congestion issue was alleviated by the generosity of yourself and the principal offering up their driveways.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Yeah, that was discussed.
It definitely was discussed, and we tried finding some other options in that area. That's what we came up with.
Yeah, there really isn't a lot of options up there, is there?
No.
I don't know the area well enough to say one way or the other. But
All right, that's good.
Okay, Chad, are you all set, sir?
I am for the moment, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, Mark will give them a little bit of time to catch your breath, and then they can look at that. I think the other thing is, I think I know who owns Turkwood now, but I think maybe even before you even spin the wheels, maybe somebody could reach out to the owner of Turkwood and just see if they would have any problem with that. So, That may save some headaches. Do you want me to try to reach out to them, Mark? And just
Or give me their contact information, either
Okay.
one.
or if we're good with transportation, I'd like to go to VEHI. Oh, is that Matt Martin?
Yeah, he's
Yes.
That's here.
Hey Matt, why don't you hey Matt, I'd like to get Greg out of here because we've made him enjoy our meeting for an hour. Is he still alive? Hey Matt, you want to talk about the tractor and the flooring?
Sure.
You and Greg, I guess.
What's that, Rich?
You and Greg, I guess.
Yeah, Greg, you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, I'll just give you some quick history. Right in the spring, we talked about trying to get the floor sanded. And just found the email here on June 23rd. We were contacted by the gym floor company that was going to do it, and they were not comfortable sanding the floor, knowing that there was asbestos under it, and it being a parquet floor, that if they started to come loose, that they would be, you know, liable to something like that. And so it was kind of a bummer being that late in the year. You know, by the time you put out an RFP for a bid, you're just not going to have time to do it. So we just kind of held off. And so, you know, then the conversation came up about some of the issues that we're having with the tractor. And so then the idea was, right now it's going to take you probably 2 weeks to have the floor done. You're going to have probably 3 to 4 days of removal and asbestos removal. And then I would think 3 to 4 days of laying down the floor and 3 or 4 days of putting down new lines and finish and whatnot. So it's probably a minimum 2 week project, which means you're not going to do it until at best June now. And so the idea was to just slide the tractor up now, which is on the capital plan for next year, and just get it done and then have that one basically start July 1. It's all it really is in essence, it's like a 6-month swap really. You know, and then that goes to some of the issues they're having with the tractor, which I think Matt will discuss a little more, is if we don't want to do this, then, you know, I don't know, then how do we go about, you know, do you want to invest the money in the repair? So, because the tractor is due for some pretty rugged repairs. So, right, Matt, which is PTO, transmission.
Yeah, so I just want to start by saying I'm no expert at this, but what we know is it loses power on the bucket, it loses power on the 3-point hitch off the PTO. It seems like it could be a hydraulic issue, but I don't know. We've talked to 2 mechanic shops, one dealership, one non-dealership. They both said basically the same thing, really hard to diagnose from a description. Really kind of have to get their hands in there and open it up and see what's going on. So my sense is that I guess a lot of the hydraulic systems are integrated on these smaller tractors, where the drive system shares hydraulic oil with the hydraulic system, and so it's just hard to make diagnoses without breaking it apart. And they think that will cost a lot of money. And once you break it apart, you might as well fix it because it's open. Otherwise, you're paying to take it apart, put it back together, and have nothing. So I get all that. My question really to you guys is just some guidance on should we invest the money in this thing that we're about to replace next year anyway? It's 28 years old. Or do we switch things around a little bit, swap projects a little bit like Greg's talking about, and then just put the money into a new one? That's really what we're looking for, is some guidance on that.
Did you say 28 years old?
Yeah.
28 years old, yeah. It's 1995. Yeah, it was pretty good life, I guess.
Any other questions?
What's the tractor used for?
The majority of the use is snow removal in the winter, but also there's a brush hog for clearing down some of the brush alongside of the playground areas and the ball fields that grows up periodically.
Okay.
Also use it to unload when we get large deliveries of paper, other things. Allows us to use tailgate delivery instead of liftgate, which saves hundreds of dollars on shipping every time there's a big order, which isn't isn't very often, but every little bit, right?
Yep.
Anybody in TV land? Kate, go ahead, I'm sorry. Can't see her.
So if you just use it for snow removal and stuff like that, do you guys need a tractor, or would a snow blower or something like that be able to handle what the needs are? Because just if you're only saving a couple $100 a few times a year on paper, you know, deliveries and stuff like that, like, does that make sense to make the investment in a tractor again? Do we need one, or could we do it with a smaller apparatus?
Good question. Yeah, so the machine we have, I think, is somewhere around 30 horsepower, which is still considered a pretty small tractor. It has a 5-foot snow blower on it already that we use to clear the snow. And the bucket, the snow blower is on the back, so you have to go backwards to snow blow, but you still have to use the loader to pile the snow up because of the amount of snow we get. And it's fairly typical that after a windy night, which is most nights in Dover, there could be 5-6 foot snow drifts on the east end of the building just from the wind blowing around the way it leaves. So the snow blower is a huge part of the system. And so the new machine would have a snow blower, it would have a bucket, and that's pretty much it. I think we had spec'd out some forks for the front so that we could more easily unload things from trucks, but forks, loader, and rear snowblower, pretty much it. I think the brush hog we have is still in decent shape. We don't use it too much, so we wouldn't get a new one of those at this point.
Matt, real quick, Dave also does pathways to your exterior doors and whatnot for your emergency, your fire drills, whatnot, for the classrooms, correct?
That's right, yeah. So the emergency egress around the back of the building has to be cleared out too. So that's the entire sort of loop around the building. We keep that all clear for access for emergency services or fires. Yeah.
Anybody else? So Matt, just a couple quick questions. Didn't we buy a snowblower too, a walk behind snowblower?
Yeah, we have I think it's a 24-inch, 2-foot walk behind that we use for, that we used to use it for the handicap ramp and some of the other smaller paths, but also I believe, I don't know that we've done it ever in my time, but I think they used to bring that up on the roof as well and use it for clearing off the roof. Do you remember anything about that, Rich?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that they borrow, the town will come up with a excavator, I guess, and lift that little snowblower up on the roof, and it allows us to save some cash on snow removal from the roof as well. And
didn't we also buy a lawnmower too to mow the lawn?
Yeah, we own a commercial 60-inch zero-turn lawnmower for the grass management as well. Yeah, but the tractor, we don't use the tractor for finish mowing, just for the brush mowing.
So my only issue is that when we bought the tractor, we bought it because we had no. Tim Sherman used to have a little Cub Cadet tractor with a little snowblower, and it wasn't moving stuff enough, and it took him forever just to drive from the school down to the library back when we still had the library building. So we bought it, and then that replaced the tractor, the snowblower and everything. And then we went back out and bought all those because the tractor didn't work properly for that. So I guess I have a little issue because anything you need to move snowbanks, being a 30 horsepower tractor, it's not going to move snowbanks as well as the town's backhoe. And the town will come up anytime you ask them, and we've had them take all the snow from everywhere and make a big pile for us before. So I don't think that's an issue, and it just, to me, it seems like it's something that we really don't need for the amount of times we actually use it. And if we have a snowblower will make paths around the building to get people out. And I don't know. And then my other question is, it sounds more like, when was the last time the hydraulic system was serviced? And, have they replaced filters and stuff? And, you know, a tractor, my loaders are all a lot older than your tractor, and they move a lot of snow in the winter too. So you just, you know, I'm questioning, because a tractor like that's got to be in the, you know, with the attachments you're looking for, it's got to be in the $60,000 to $70,000 range, correct?
I don't know. We haven't put the bid out yet. I think we had budgeted around 50. But I can answer. Can I answer a couple of your questions, Rich?
Sure.
So I double checked on the maintenance record, and the tractor is well maintained in terms of maintaining the oil levels. I of course asked the question, was the hydraulic oil checked recently? Because that's you know, often can be an issue. But the levels are fine. There has been an occasional hose break, which they've had repaired, and so I feel like I can answer the maintenance question that it has been well maintained. It did have a clutch problem a few years ago that we had to replace. That was very expensive. Going back to your question about the walk behind, and I only know this because last winter, no, it wasn't last winter, it might have been a couple winters ago, both Dave and Helen were sick and we got blasted up there. So this guy is up there running the tractor, running the walk behind snowblower. And I can tell you that those drifts up there around the back of the building, I don't think there's a walk behind snowblower that will touch those things in a Dover winter. You'd be really talking about getting the town up there every time you wanted to clear that back area out, particularly the back area around the sides. The town does the plowing. They do a fantastic job. They lift all the snow in the parking area. So they do a really great job of that. It's really the smaller stuff in and around the building where it kind of benefit from, you know, a smaller machine, smaller than a large loader, or, you know, something a little smaller, but it's still got to have enough oomph to be able to pick up some snow, push some snow, blow some snow. Drifting is just a regular thing up there. I think we'd end up spending a lot of money if we contracted out, but you know, that's why we're here tonight, is to get the board's opinions on this.
Cool. No, I asked about the filter. Has a hydraulic filter ever been changed?
Yeah, it has. There's usually 3 of them. There's a motor filter, a hydrostatic if you have it, and a hydraulic fluid filter on these smaller tractors. But this tractor's manual, or it's called a shuttle shift, which I'm not sure I fully understand, but I think it's a proprietary thing for the brand.
Cool. Any other questions? You guys all set?
I think so.
I was just gonna
Go
say,
ahead.
75,000 should be able to get you a 50 or 60 horsepower unit, so you can probably get away with, I guess, getting something that's, if you just need a 30 horsepower unit, something in the $45,000 range.
Greg, do you remember any of the spec that do you happen to have that handy?
Snow blower, and they want forks, and they want the quick connect.
The snow blower that's on the current unit, can that be used on a new unit? Or are you talking about buying a whole new snow blower?
Yeah, so the snow blower is, they feel like it's pretty worn out. It's been run, I don't know how many years, but so this current quote would be, or not current quote, but I think the replacement plan for next year would have included a new snow blower.
Yeah,
3-point inch style.
That's $10,000 right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
probably in that same ballpark. Plus prices are way up. I got Dwight, and then anybody else. Are you all set, Mark? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Dwight.
That's really for you, Greg. You mentioned about the parquet floor. So you said that they didn't want to sand it because of the asbestos, the threat of asbestos. Does that mean, because I know you'd mentioned earlier we could do a simple, you know, sanding of it and repairs. I mean, it's going to need a full replacement for at the larger cost.
Yeah. I mean, when Dave and I were talking, we were talking 2 substantially different things. I was thinking more of a scrub and recoat type of thing, of just trying to kind of knock it down a little bit and do it. But Dave really wanted to get it sanded down. Feels like, you know, some of the pieces that are maybe a little loose, you can see that there is a wear layer there that could be sanded down, you know, a time, maybe 2, and work. And so we put it out to this gentleman who they do the Leland and Gray floor at the high school. Really good, really reasonable priced guys. And he came, looked at it, was really, really busy. Took a few weeks to get back to us, which really stunk because then, it ended up being like late June when he finally got back to us. And he just was like, yeah, we're booked through this summer anyways for sandings, and we wouldn't be comfortable sanding that floor. And so my email to Matt when I received that was like, hey man, I think we just do it. We know the board, and I know Rich in his heart wants to see this floor done anyway. So, let's just suck it up, get the RFP done and do it. We had a really busy summer. And so it's kind of like, we're not going to get it out and done this summer. So let's just address it in the fall, get board direction and plan for, my thought was to plan for, as soon as school ended, to still get it done this year. But then Dave brought forth the issue of, some of the issues he's having with the tractor. And so then we thought, well, if the tractor's in for next year and that's in for this year, maybe we just swap projects to, and basically put them both out at the same time, but just have the dates set up where they just kind of offset,
So let's stick with the tractor for now before we get on the gym floor, because I think that's a whole different discussion.
Okay.
I mean, and just on the gym floor, for ever since I've been on the board, that was a discussion before I got on the board, and we've known that needs to be replaced. And I don't. It's never going to get cheaper, and we could have replaced it for $20,000, 20 years ago. So I mean, I'd actually, my preference would be, let's live with the tractor for another winter, and let's focus on the floor, because that may be more than we'll ever think it's going to be, because it may be time to really bite the bullet.
I would agree with that, and maybe try to find an alternative, either getting some additional machines or figure out a way to get through this year and get the floor done, and then live to fight another day with the tractor maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we're supposed to make decisions based on students. I'm sure the students don't care if the tractor runs, but I'm sure they'd rather have a nicer floor in the gym. And again, and I wish we knew what the floor would be as a replacement. Can you get us a replacement number, Greg?
I can try. I will. Actually, I'll email the gentleman that was going to sand us right now and see just what he would estimate, offhand, just so we have like a number, and I'll email it out to the board. What his response is, just to give us like an idea what we're looking at. I know that Helen priced out the asbestos removal in the spring. It was $25,600.
Yeah, but I mean, eventually it's going to have to go, and it's not going to get any cheaper, and as less and less people are doing it.
No, I completely agree with you, Rich. I do. But my only thing is, like I said, the floor is going to be 2 weeks. So, like, best case scenario is this floor is probably getting done in the summer, unless we want to concede, like, maybe a week of no PE, before, like, March or something, and strip it and have that done. I just don't know that you could do asbestos removal in that gym with the kitchen trying to function.
No, I'm not saying we do it this year anyways, but... if we were thinking when we were presented just to sand it and refinish it, if we get one more cycle out of it, I think we were talking, less than just the asbestos removal. But
yes,
if we have to replace the floor, we may be talking a lot more money than we put away, and that's where my concern is.
Mm-hmm.
Which one's more important to us?
Oh, I think the gym floor is the most important. I completely agree with you there. As far as your student life, your meeting student needs, I am 100% on board with you there.
And Greg, what else did we have in the two buildings for capital projects for this current year, and where did we fall on them?
Windows.
Pardon?
Wardsboro windows, that RFP is ready to go out. I was kind of waiting for this meeting to just try to maybe stick them all out together or whatever we want to do. But the Wardsboro windows is going out next.
So again, why don't we just do this? Why don't you, because we also did painting, didn't we, that out of the reserve, out of the Capitol building, and you already replaced a couple windows. can you just get us a report where we stand on the capital budget? Just, we don't need to put an RFP out. Call whoever you want to call for a tractor and just see what the tractor's going to cost, so we can start looking at real numbers, see what we put away. And, 2 weeks isn't going to make that much of a difference. If it snows in the next 2 weeks, Matt, I'll bring you my tractor up and you can beat that. But let's just, I think maybe if we could have a better picture of where we're at. Is everybody okay with that?
I just have one question.
Yeah.
As far as safety goes, Matt, you're talking about using the tractor to clear the back of the building for egress and emergency services. Is there another mechanism to do that if you don't have a tractor? And Rich's tractor is busier in the shop.
My tractors are always in the shop.
That's where you find it.
That's where you keep them warm.
That's where you find
I'm not talking about where you keep them warm.
No.
There's no other alternative. Mark, the little snowblower is good for, a couple feet of snow. But the amount of snow we get and the drift sizes up there at school are just much bigger than the little walk behind can handle. So if we don't have the tractor, then we'll have to either contract it out or ask the town to come up, or things that we'd have to figure all that out, or we'd have to maybe get the old tractor fixed, which might be the best choice so that we can get a decent trade-in on it in the summer. That's another thing to consider, is if we let it go, then we have nothing, we have nothing to trade. There's no value in it. If we fix it, at least maybe we can get another winter out of it, and there'd be some value in it when we go to trade it. So those are all things to consider.
So I'm just going to say that my concern is way up there in regards to safety, and the gym floor is way down there. My top concern is safety, is making sure that we have.
If we got
that
5 or
ability.
6 foot drifts, I'm sure the town would run their backhoe around the building like they did before we had a tractor. And I just,
That's why I asked what the alternative was.
I think, plus what happened was when they built the chicken coop classroom, they cut off the access to the back side because it was back where they drive around the loop. Now
we took that down, didn't we?
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. That was one of the reasons why we were told that we needed the tractor with the snowblower, because the town's machine wouldn't fit back there anymore because we put the portable classroom up.
They could have just taken the classroom with them.
Well, we thought we were going to get, we were promised $40,000 or $50,000 in trade-in. So instead, it went away in a big green bin. Everybody in TV land, are you all good with that? Waiting to get some guesstimate numbers based on some science from everybody. We'll bring it up at the next meeting. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Rich. Or actually, this is more of a question for Greg. Did we have some? Greg, do you remember if we had some numbers on the tractor? I think we had done a little bit of investigation on that.
I think he just said roughly was, in that like 50,000 range.
Okay.
I think that Town Line, I thought he said had one, because he was talking that they were one of the people that David spoken with about the repair. But I have no problem. I can call Cherry Creek, Town Line, Salem, and just get like a rough number real quick. Like, hey, quick number, top of your head. What do you think on something on this with these attachments? So that's not a problem.
Sounds good. Thanks.
And the floor also, right?
Yep.
And whatever other things that we're looking to put out this year, so we'd see what the numbers look like.
Yep.
And also, that Matt, you brought up a point I hadn't even thought about was, maybe we need to just make it run right anyways, so that we have something worth something other than, as a boat anchor.
That's really kind of the hard spot we're in, is like, do we put money in this thing, or, that's kind of why we're here tonight, is to get that that question answered, because I don't know if I would put it in if it were my money. You know, I don't know how you guys that run that kind of equipment, if you know a lot more than I do, but if that was your piece of equipment, would you put some money into it and limp it along, or would you let it go? I just don't know at 20.
All the time. I can't just say, hey, I need money, and people give me money. So we're always fixing equipment and putting several $1,000s into something. I mean, I put probably $30,000 or $40,000 into one of the loaders in one winter.
So would you, as a board, would you approve us, sending that tractor off maybe with a not to exceed number, right? Like, hey, we need you to get this thing up and running. We can't have that number go over, say, $6,000 or something like that, or whatnot, because Dave was getting estimates of like $6,000 to $10,000 in repair. He said they basically are going to split the transmission in half. I'm with Matt. I don't know a ton about tractors, but basically they had to take the whole thing apart just to diagnose, and then they basically said, if you're going to send it to us, you need to commit to the repair, because we're not going to do all that work just to have you turn around and try and trade it in.
But the other thing too is, if we put $6,000 or $8,000 into it and it works right, then why would we trade it, and why wouldn't we just keep it?
Sure.
Well, we can wait a week, 2 weeks for that, can't we?
Right. I just think, again, just because it's old, it doesn't have any hours on it. It doesn't have a lot of hours on it, and if we dump $6,000 or $8,000 into it, then we can keep it for 5 years. We can push it down the pike and take care of other things too. That, and again, to me, it's not something that the school bus has to run, and it has to be reliable. There is no backup. We don't have extra buses that we can just grab from. We can't call the town. They can't load the kids into the back of the dump truck or into the police car and get them to school. But the tractor, there are other options out there as a temporary fix. Right. And again, winters aren't like they were 30 years ago, 28 years ago. So, if we get, and usually we get a really heavy snow or bad snow anyways, and we don't have school.
Yep, I'm into it.
Yeah, if you can just get us some more numbers, and then I'm sorry, guys and ladies, gentlemen in TV land, are you all set, Chad?
Yeah, I'm good. I would agree with you, Rich, that there is value for this piece of equipment in having it diagnosed and preferably fixed to be able to carry on. Greg, I appreciate you asking for a not to exceed number. I feel that's a very responsible way to approach it, but I think we need to find out, precisely what's wrong. I know they want us to commit to the repair, and I think essentially that in asking for them to diagnose, we would be, and appreciate having kind of a ballpark, from the guys that you've spoken with as to what they anticipate it could cost. But again, that's looking at the number comparison to, as with all of our personal vehicles, in that same boat. Like, I hope I can get this fixed, because I'd rather, get this fixed for $1,000 than, spend $30,000 on a new car. So looking at the numbers for this tractor, ideally we have, 5 more, the value of 5 more fixes before we really need to look at a new one. And, that could bring us to, and again, Rich, like you said, you've got experience with this type of equipment, 25 years young, what is the theoretical possibility that we bring that up, to a 40-year vehicle, that gets used, for 40 seasons at Dover School? I think the potential is high for that. I hope the potential is high for that.
Thank you, Chad. Laura or Kate, are you anything you want to weigh in on, or are you all set? You're all set, Kate. Laura, you haven't moved in a while. I think she's okay.
Hey, Rich. Can I ask one question from you guys that know tractors?
You can ask 100 questions, but I'm going to charge you after a while.
To pay for the tractor repair. What is typical number of hours that you would expect to get out of a machine like that? Is there one?
Yeah, I don't know what if there is a blue book for equipment, and it kind of tells you based on the size. I don't even know what you have anymore. I thought we bought a Kubota.
Yeah, Kubota.
Yeah.
L something. I'm sorry, I don't know the model number.
Yeah, I mean, I had an L2850. It was the best tractor I ever had. I wish I never got rid of it. But, I didn't have the shuttle shift, though. And I know there were some issues with them because I don't think you can buy them anymore. But again, I think, like Chad was saying, I don't think it has many hours, and it's getting less and less usage because it doesn't mow the lawn anymore. It's not doing as many different things. So, if we could fix it, but let's look into it. Folks, I appreciate it. I don't mean to keep beating you up, but let's just, make sure that we're being smart with our money, because it's going to get tight, I think, over the next couple of years.
Rich, I also think of it from the idea of, like, even if you decide in, say, 2 years to trade it in, but a running tractor is, now you actually have something to trade in. Like right now, it's scrap metal,
Right.
or close to, right? You're going to get what, $2,500, but if you make this investment, it works. You could be looking at almost getting every penny of that repair right back in trade and value. So,
for sure.
I love the idea of sending it out, getting the repair done. We'll get you estimates on new one. He was looking at, for a new one, he was looking at an MX 5400 four-wheel drive.
What?
5400's 54 horsepower.
Yeah, I've got the Grand L60.
Yeah, so it's in that same class.
The MX is even bigger.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a pretty big machine. I mean, now we're getting into backhoe loader level.
I don't know about that, but...
Well, no, the Kubota mini loaders.
Yeah.
I think it's the same. Anyways, we don't need to discuss it, but yeah, I think, Greg, the point you just made, and Matt too, is even if we dump 10,000 into it, we run it for 2 more years, you may get your money back on it. Most people, when they trade a Kubota in after 20 to 25 years, they're going to get darn close what they paid for it, because when they bought that machine, I bet you they didn't pay $20,000 for it. Maybe 18. I don't remember. But again, I think it's worthwhile, and it doesn't mean we have to trade it in. Just because it's on the schedule doesn't mean it has to happen.
Sure, yeah. This spring we bought a Kubota, a lawnmower for Leland and Gray, and while we were at Salem, the guy told us that the one at the high school would be, they'd give us between 23 and 25 for. So, it does make me think. Right. I mean, if you put 10 grand into it, you could actually see, more than that back, because it's worth more now as a running tractor than not. So, thank you. That's the direction I was looking for anyways.
And the other thing I do too is, while it's up there, have them go through it and check and see what else is, getting. I mean, replacing hoses and stuff is nothing, but if they see anything else that they think should be done, let's do it. You had the clutch done a couple years ago. I mean, so that lasts 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. Greg, I'm sorry to make you stay, but you can blame Matt, because if Matt was here earlier, we would have let you go first.
Oh, man. I'm totally okay with blaming Matt.
Okay. Hey,
have a good evening.
So, Matt, anything else for principals updates? I believe you guys sent out a report, right?
Not this one, last meeting.
No, last meeting, but is there anything either one of you want to update? How is school, opening? Any COVID issues? Any sickness?
Not here. We're doing okay here so far, knock on wood. I do have one thing that is more of like a nudgy business item about Alice Sinclair's contract. There was an accounting mistake.
I fixed it. I signed it.
I know, but you wanted me to bring it up just in the board session, so it was in the meeting minutes. So there was an adjustment of $1,207 that needed to be made on that, and you re-signed it.
Right. So, folks, just so you know, they noticed when they sent the contract over, they put the wrong number down. It needed to be $1,200 more. I felt we didn't really mention the salary in there. We just agreed to sign the contract, so I re-signed it so she could have a contract. I hope nobody minds, and I don't think we need to do anything. I just thank you for reminding me. And then Matt, I guess there's a one up at the Dover School I need to re-sign because I signed on the wrong line. I tried to be the teacher.
Yeah.
I just heard that message tonight before I headed over here, so I'll try to get up there tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Sorry
Thanks.
about that. Is there any questions for anybody on, oh Matt, anything in Dover we need to be aware of? Any issues with sickness, illness, absentees?
You know, we've had a little bit of this, colds going around, a couple of cases of COVID, but nothing too bad. We had a really nice open house tonight, good attendance, and yeah, just can't believe a month of school has gone by. This year is just flying.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for them? Hey, what's your protocol now with COVID? They just have to not, after so many days after test, not of having a clear test, they come back, or?
It's 5 days.
And is that SU-wide building?
We're just
Or-
following the health department's recommendations at this time.
Okay.
They're still recommending that.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody in TV land have any questions for your principals? No? You guys all set? Mark? Oh, he's thinking he had a question. He can't remember it.
Remember.
Yeah, I had one, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay, you can ask it later if you remember. Okay, I have for VEHI. So VEHI is our insurance carrier for our health and for our dental. And they have their annual meeting up at the up at Lake Maury when they meet for meet with the VSBA, and there's a bunch of other stuff. I think the NEA meets up there. So because River Valley's
Not the NEA, VPA
VPA
and VSA. I think.
well, I thought it was also
Not
the
the
same
NEA.
time for the NEA convention too. That's why we have it off at that time. But anyways, there's a bunch of people meet up there. So River Valley has 2 votes, one for the VEHI proxy for the dental program and one for the health insurance program. So at the Wyndham Central meeting, Dan McAllister from Marlboro said he would be going in
MacArthur.
Dan MacArthur.
MacArthur, yeah.
And Dan is going to be going, and he's going to represent WCSU. So if Mark was thinking of going, and we told him what time, it's at 8 o'clock. Mark said no. Well, I won't say exactly what he said, but it was nice. He said he wouldn't be there. So I'd like to see if I could get a motion for somebody to allow the board chair to sign on behalf of the board to appoint Dan MacArthur from Marlboro as our proxy.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion from Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dwight seconds it.
Gotta be in person.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 It appears to be a unanimous decision. It is a unanimous decision, he said. So I think that's what he said. So we're good.
Who seconded?
Seconded by Dwight, right to my left.
Thanks.
He's making it easy on you tonight, Peter. I got one executive session item for personnel that will be quick, and I didn't get the wording down, so hopefully Mark will remember it for me. But before we go there, I want to just approve pay warrants. So they were sent out to everybody. They're in the amount of $62,560. If somebody can make that motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Okay, Mark moved. Peter, 62560. So give me the thumbs.
Yes, I got that.
Okay.
A second.
Dwight seconds it. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it appears to be a unanimous decision. It is. So our next meeting is in 2 weeks on a Monday at Dover School. Hopefully we'll have some stuff from to talk about there. I think we also I was thinking Lori was gonna be back, but I think she's still gonna be out, so some of that financial stuff we wanna talk about, I'm gonna blow off till the last meeting. But if there's anything anybody thinks that we missed,
I just wondered, October has 5 Mondays, so the next meeting would be the 17th. Would we do one on the 31st or hold off until
We hold off,
November?
hold
I
off.
think it would be the 7th or something. Okay.
yeah, we do
Thank you.
the first and third Mondays.
Perfect.
Okay. Mark, do you recall the motions?
I pulled it up.
Okay, you wanna,
I move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding the appointment or evaluation of a public officer or employee would put the board at substantial disadvantage because disclosing contract negotiations. Is this about contracts?
no, it's about personnel.
Because disclosing personnel information.
Okay, can I have a second to that?
Second.
Dwight seconds. All those in favor say aye.
I
I
It appears to be unanimous.
I make a motion for the board to enter executive session under Title I, Section 313 of Vermont statutes for the
Discussion of personnel.
those aren't the words there, but discussion of personnel issues. Any final decision will be made in open session.
Second.
Okay, Dwight seconds, Mark moved it. Peter, these are those standard ones, and hopefully if you need them, Mark will send them to you.
I pulled them off of the August.
Oh, I got copies.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
I
Okay, it appears to be unanimous. Matt, I need you to stick around, please.
Oh,
Yeah, what? I'm sorry.
can everybody just look in their email? You received a survey from the VSBA today on school board governance. It's really important. Please fill it out.
Can we? You can bring it up after this.
Okay, I'll bring it up again after this.
Yeah,
once we're
write
back.
yourself a note.
I already did, and I forgot it the first time.
So thank you, public. If you want to come back, it should only be a few minutes. Okay, Peter, we came out at whatever time it is,
8:06.
and we've there was Matt and Tammy are going to keep us up to date, and there'll be no motions made.
I do have an announcement, though.
Yeah, no.
All right.
Let me make sure he's done. Are you all set, Peter?
Yes.
Okay, Mark has an announcement. Yay, Mark.
All the school board members will have received an email from the VSBA today, I believe, with a survey in regards to governance, school board governance standards. These are new standards that are being created based on whatever the act was that people waiting was. Keep forgetting the number. The survey is really important for you to fill out. These are rules that are going to be affecting how we run our meetings, how we operate as a school board. So please fill out that survey. Really important.
Okay, is there anybody else? Go, Chad, you all set?
Oh, and just one small announcement, not that it really matters a whole lot, but I did get reelected as regional rep for Wyndham for another 2 years.
Congratulations.
Here, so because of that, you can have that.
You have that. Hang out with Dan.
Okay, if everybody's good, do I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Dwight moves, second.
I'll second.
Yeah,
Thank you,
go,
Kate. All those in favor say aye, even though we don't have to.
Yeah,
I
We'll see you all in a couple weeks.